By the time I got back from picking up cattle feed, my south pasture looked like someone handed out free tickets to a beige Woodstock 60 folding chairs scattered in the tall grass, a rented Prosecco bar sweating in the sun, and some Bluetooth DJ blasting country remixes at my Longhorns like they were the opening act. That's not even the weird part. The HOA president, Beverly Sloan Queen of clipped vowels and passive aggression, was standing in my driveway, floppy sun hat flapping, waving a clipboard, just grinning and shouting, "We annexed your vibe for the afternoon," like my home was just some pop-up venue on Airbnb. Right then, a drone zipped over my barn, hovering like a smug little mosquito, and before I could even ask what the hell was going on, someone's oversized SUV backed into my wellhead with a crunch I felt in my gut. Name's Reed Mallory. Yeah, that Mallory, the one who owns the stubborn 30-acre wedge called Mallory Ranch. Used to be just me, my dog Pinto, and a patchwork of fences, sunsets, and peace. The kind of place HOA folks only see on Instagram or real estate ads for untapped amenities. But Miskey Trails HOA, they crept in like moss or plaque on old teeth, one subdivision at a time, until my place stuck out like the last molar at the back of a mouth. I like my quiet. I like mending fence with nobody watching. I like slow brisket, slow mornings, and Pinto, my cattle dog, rolling in dust motes under the kitchen table. What I don't like, Beverly. She wears lipstick the color of litigation and perfume that smells like fresh printed HOA violation notices. She calls my ranch an undeveloped amenity, like she's being generous me I call it home. It started small notes slipped under my gate like secret valentines written in tight lawyer-perfect handwriting. Your barn is non-compliant with the neighborhood palette. Lady, it's barn red. That's the whole point. Next, your rooster violates quiet hours. He's salaried by the Sun Beverly. Take it up with God. Then the big one, she cornered me at the feed store, trapped me between the molasses cubes and the grain bins and said, "We're hosting a farm-to-culla sack social to showcase rural charm to prospective buyers." She said it like I'd already agreed, her eyes glittering over her glasses. I declined by walking away. Apparently silence meant yes, because the next week I saw flyers. Glossy ones. Mallory Ranch. Saturday 10 a.m. exclusive wristbands $20. 60 sold. That's how it happens. At 10 sharp they came through my south gate. Didn't knock, didn't call, just rolled in like they owned the place. Luxury SUVs rumbling over wildflowers I'd spent all spring nursing. They unlatched my corral so the animals could mingle. Some lady chirped, and next thing I knew my horses were scattering, and someone setting up charcuterie boards on my hay bales with tiny forks and napkins stamped with the HOA logo. Someone strung bunting on my old windmill, turned it into a Pinterest nightmare. And the bounce house. They set it up right in the goat pen. I'll tell you what, those goats were not impressed. At noon, I catch a woman designer, sunglasses, zero shame, digging around in my walk-in cooler. "We'll just borrow some ice," she says, like it's a community fridge. Meanwhile, the 20-something running the Prosecco bar asks where my restrooms are, and Beverly, I swear, points at my septic access hatch like it's a porta-potty and says, "Facilities are right there." My blood pressure went up so fast I could hear it in my ears. I look over and see another woman posing for Instagram with my prize bull Fernando. Luckily, he was behind a reinforced fence, so all she got was a good snort and a photo that smells like manure. Next, I spot a guest poking around my granddad's tool shed, holding his antique branding irons, turning them over in her hands like they're vintage shop finds. "These would look amazing in my breakfast nook," she tells her friend. "Yeah, if you want your toast marked with a cattle rancher's initials." Meanwhile, a kid's throwing rocks at my chicken coop, his mom sipping Prosecco and bragging about property values. If they develop this land properly, she sighs, we could have a community pool where that ugly barn is. That ugly barn has seen more hard work and sunrises than any pool you've ever splashed in, lady. Beverly had claimed my workbench for a welcome table, threw a tablecloth over it, stacked HOA-branded water bottles, and started preaching about her vision to new arrivals. "This is just phase one," she says, voice trembling with excitement. "Next month, yoga with the goats. In fall, a harvest festival and corn maze." She points at my wheat field like she's unveiling blueprints. "We're bringing culture to this wasteland." Wasteland. 3 generations of my family grew that field. She called it a wasteland. I'm standing there watching my ranch get turned into a country club for the bored and sunburnt, and finally I skip the shouting match and pull out my phone. Call the county code office, calm as I can. "Unpermitted assembly on ag property," I say. "Food service without a handler's card. Alcohol no special event permit. Private easement traffic. Trespass. And by the way, someone's tied bunting to a pressure line." The dispatcher just sighs like she's heard it all before and says, "We'll send an inspector, a deputy, and the fire marshal." 20 minutes later, the cavalry arrives, county inspector, deputy, and a fire marshal who looks like he's seen everything. Beverly tries to play hostess, offers them wristbands and samples of Chardonnay. The inspector, a woman built like a fence post and just as tough, asks for permits. Doesn't even blink at the wine. Beverly flashes her HOA president lanyard like it's a diplomatic passport. The fire marshal glances at the bounce house in the goat pen and says, "That sentence is going to end badly." Yeah, you know what I mean. Clipboards come out and suddenly it's a bureaucratic battle. The inspector slaps a bright orange cease and desist order on my well house. Beverly's voice gets shrill, trying to rally her crowd, but the deputy gently separates her from her megaphone. The fire marshal counts heads, looks at the single-lane dirt drive half blocked by BMWs and says the words every HOA president dreads: "Immediate evacuation due to life safety hazards. Venue not approved for public assembly." The word "immediate" hit Beverly like a cold slap. So there it is, a conga line of embarrassed guests tiptoeing back to their cars, abandoning Prosecco flutes. Goats sniffing at the cheese boards with religious devotion. Beverly's redder than my barn, sputtering about community jurisdiction and HA-sanctioned event, waving her clipboard like it's the Constitution. The deputy local guy worked my hay season back in high school says, "Ma'am, your jurisdiction ends at his fence line. This is private property." Turns to me. "You want to press charges?" I just smile, that rancher's smile, slow and wide. "Let's start with damages and see where we land." The county rains down fines like hail in a summer storm. Unpermitted event, $2,000. Illegal alcohol, $1,500. Health code, another $1,000. Easement obstruction, $3,000. Unauthorized use of my stuff, $500 a pop, 6 times over. The inspector takes pictures of everything. Even Beverly's committee redecorating my no trespassing sign behind a lavender bush for aesthetic cohesion. They found that idea in the group chat. The inspector now has screenshots. Then insurance gets involved because that SUV busted my wellhead, and if groundwater gets contaminated, it's a disaster. Emergency HOA board meeting happens, not on my property, of course, they're banned now, but in their model home. The county inspector lays out her evidence like a prosecutor at trial, photo after photo, document after document, showing trespass, property damage, endangerment, a whole gallery of stupidity. The board members, they go pale as printer paper. The vote unanimous. Beverly's out, removed as president on the spot. Her gasp echoed in that model home like someone just canceled Christmas. The kicker. The HOA's insurance carrier made sure Beverly was personally liable for every penny their policy didn't cover. My bill, itemized, signed, delivered, came out to $32,000. New wellhead pasture repairs, hauling an emergency vet for my goat, who ate 6 yards of bunting, and day rates for me and my foreman. The board approved it, eyes glued to the table, not one looking Beverly's way. And for the grand finale, the fire marshal required a public apology and a safety seminar hosted by Beverly herself called And I'm not kidding. Why your neighbor's ranch isn't your Pinterest board. Mandatory for every HOA board member live streamed for the whole county. The county attorney brought in for how badly they botched this ads. Mrs. Sloan, you're facing criminal trespass charges. The photos clearly show you moving no trespassing signs. That's a Class B misdemeanor. Beverly's lawyer, some guy sweating through his suit, whispers in her ear, and she just sags, realizing what's at stake. Her real estate license could be suspended. Revoked property crimes mean a permanent record. The state licensing board, they don't play. The judge piles on 120 hours community service at the county fair. Manure crew, bright vest, says grounds respect in August. 40 hours of property rights education. You're a realtor, Mrs. Sloan. The irony is not lost on this court. And she's banned from any HOA leadership for 4 years. By the time the county attorney threatens 6 months in jail or a plea deal, 12 months probation, community service, $5,000 fine, Beverly's staring at a grand total of $47,000 plus legal fees plus a career in tatters. Her mouth's opening and closing like a trout in a dry bucket. No words left. Meanwhile, I get my land back. The grass grows, the windmill spins. Pinto naps in the sun like nothing happened. Sometimes I catch neighbors slowing down by my fence, maybe thinking twice about what private property means. Here's my question for you. Was that justice or just another round of suburban payback? Tell me down in the comments, especially if you've ever tangled with an HOA or had your peace and quiet hijacked for somebody else's vision. Hit that, like if you think boundaries still matter, and share your own wild story, because out here the fence line is more than just wood and wire. It's the whole point.